that astrology is a tool, a language.
Can you explain in simple terms, like each of the houses? Welcome back, Stellar Vibes with Ashley. I have my guest, Carolina Velis. She is an astrologer and educator, and she's going to give us some beginner tips about astrology. Carolina, can you explain about yourself and also tell us your astrology sign?
Sure. Hello, everybody. My name is Carolina or Carolina, whichever one you prefer. I am happy to be here. I am an astrologer. I studied with the Portland School of Astrology, which sadly it's not around anymore. And aside from that, I have a monthly membership where I teach individuals who are curious to go into this journey and teach them the basics of astrology so you can unlock and decode what this crazy chart means for you in this life and how to activate it, how to navigate it, what does the transits mean, what do you do with this information? So that's my passion. And my astrology, I am what most when you start out in astrology and learning, the first thing that you learn is the elements: water, air, earth, fire. So I'm mainly water and air. I'm a Cancer sun, Libra moon, Pisces rising, and so that makes me a very creative, emotional, compassionate, yet full of harmony, balance individual. I
Mm.
seek out balance in my world in order to feel better. That's what your moon is about.
Mm.
And it also means that I have proclivities or interests in the arts, Libra.
Oh, okay.
And
Awesome.
yeah, so I have a lot of interest in the arts. I would consider myself an artist, perhaps not at the level of the Guggenheim, but I definitely dabble in a lot of different mediums, and it's one of my big passions.
Awesome. Thank you for talking about yourself. That gives me a
Yeah.
very good insight about you. So I'm just going to ask some questions and,
Mhm.
you just kind of give us some answers of, how you would educate. For someone who's brand new, what exactly is astrology in your own words?
For someone who doesn't know or heard of astrology, I would share with them that astrology is a tool, a language, a technique, a science, and an art that helps us to understand the correlations between planetary movement outside of Earth
Mm.
with human activities. Back in the ancient times, this language, this so many hundreds of years of studies, came up with a system that tells us what to look for when particular charts are created. For example, when someone is born, right? So there's a chart, what's called a birth chart, and
Mhm.
that is essentially a map of all the planetary locations of where they were when you were born. And that's why you have a birthday, for example, and everybody's like, "Oh, that's my sun sign. That's my star sign." So most people don't realize that your birth chart encompasses at least 10 planets, and you could go a little bit more eccentric and include asteroids and many other planetary signatures or bodies, I should say. And it's the ability to both look at yourself from a objective perspective. So astrology can be used for self-development, empowerment, discovery. It will call out your doo-doo, so I won't say the bad French words, although I love them. Um, it will call you out in ways that you've probably been needing,
Yeah.
and it will help you to understand your gifts, your challenges, the potential comings and goings of your life as you grow older. Many people nowadays know of a Saturn return, right? If you're about
Mm.
27, 30, and you're paying attention to TikTok and any other social media out there, there's a lot of conversation that happens with that because most people, that's the first major transit. Transit is when a planet, current planet, is touches a part of your chart. Well, in this case, it would be Saturn returning to the place it was when you were born.
Mm,
And that happens every 27 to 30 years. So it's not a transit that's experienced often. For
mm,
example, the moon does the transit around the entire zodiac every 27 30 days, whereas Saturn does it 27 30 years. So Saturn is one of those signatures that helps us to mature. So most people have this conscious awareness of Saturn returns because it's talked about a lot as this really bad, heavy duty type of experience of like, oh shit, like when Saturn comes around, life is going to be really horrible and hard.
yeah.
Yeah, well, the part of Saturn is to help us learn discipline,
Mm,
structure, right? Perseverance. And if that's not what you like to do in life, then you may experience a harsh Saturn return. But all of that really is dependent on your own chart. Each of us is a special snowflake, and your chart tells you how special you are. Even
mm,
with someone that has the exact chart as you are obviously different unless you were raised in the same household. But even then, as you know, if you have siblings, you'll have a different experience than your siblings, even with the shared experiences that you have. So the chart really is that gateway, that opening for you to discover what you're meant to be on this life, in this earth at this time. And if you believe in past life or reincarnation, you can also look at that. You can look at the chart from that lens, from that perspective. So that's astrology.
oh, wow. Yeah. So you're saying you can also look at your past life, like as a different
Yeah.
person? Oh, wow.
Yeah, you could look at karma that you've come in with. You can
Mm,
look what you were potentially playing around with in your past life. For example, the North Node and the South Node are two signatures. These are calculated points. They're not celestial bodies. So
yeah.
the North Node tells us that wherever it sits in your chart, it tells us that's your dharma. That is where you're moving and what you need to move towards in this lifetime. Whereas the opposite of the North Node, the South Node, they're always occupying opposite signs on the wheel of the zodiac wheel. The South Node is here to tell us, what did you come in with? What do you know that is really comfortable with you in your own life that you use as a crutch and need to leave behind because you're needing to move towards the north. So the south node could be a point where you could look at as past life insights of what you were doing. I have the south node in Leo, and Leo is known as sort of like the king queen energy of the zodiac. So on a simplest level, you could say that I lived a past life where I was well to do. I had all the things and I was of command of my environment and perhaps
Oh,
had others working for me. And so my
that's
north node
awesome.
is in Aquarius. Yeah. And the north node
Yeah.
is in Aquarius, which is not Leo. Leo is about the king and queen within us all, right? We all have that within us.
Mm,
Whereas Aquarius asks us to become part of the collective, to become part of the group. And so that's my north node, is that I need to move more and more in that. So that's those are the things that you can look at. There's so many pieces within the chart that you can look at for insights and guidance.
yeah, I think my North
So
Node
yeah.
is in Aries, if I'm not mistaken. I think Aries, it's like more like an independent type zodiac sign. Like they're very independent and stuff like that. So maybe in my North Node, like I need to seek out independence in my life or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. The Aries zodiac sign is the go-getter. It's the ram that
Mm.
climbs up mountains without caring, right? They're brave. They're like, I don't care how high it is. I'm just going to continue to go and reach that goal. And they approach life with their head forward. They're
Ah,
they're the Aries natured individual will be the one at the front lines of a war. They'll be the ones that sign up for the military. They'll be the ones that start up businesses. So Aries is a fast, quick fire energy. It doesn't have long sustaining life, not that in terms
Yeah.
of living, in terms of like, it comes on quick and then and you
Yeah.
need something alongside that to maintain something on the long haul because Aries is a cardinal sign
Mhm.
and they're starters, they're initiators. And so you as a North Node in Aries are here to step into being a leader, being someone that is courageous enough to step into things that others may not be comfortable doing. You're not here to people please. That's the South Node in Libra.
Oh,
Libra wants
wow.
to like make sure that everything is like, are you okay? Yeah, are you okay? Okay, cool, awesome. And it doesn't really it takes a while for it to initiate action because it's so worried about things being all right, you
Yeah.
know? And so this is for you with your North Node and South Node. If this is you, then you're required to recognize that you have the gifts of diplomacy, but sometimes you need to break away from that and be that bold, courageous Aries nature and just go.
I'm so scared of that though, because my Scorpio side is like, if you change anything about yourself or do anything crazy, like anxiety is just the neon sign of
Yeah,
anxiety pops up when I take charge or initiate stuff. And that is like my challenge. Like my ultimate challenge is like to start something or initiate something. Like the way that you were
yeah.
talking about Aries, like that's scary to me, you know?
Yeah,
So
and
yeah,
Scorpio is a fixed sign. So there's
yeah.
three modalities. The zodiac, when you study the zodiac, there's two things that people need to learn. First
Mhm,
is the elements, right? We talked
mhm,
about air, earth, water, fire. They're not in order, but you get the picture.
mhm,
And then the other lens that you understand the zodiac through is the modality. Modality means that this is how the sign takes action.
mm,
And so Aries versus Scorpio are two different things. Scorpio is a fixed nature sign, meaning that it's here to set things in place. It's not necessarily known for wanting to do change. It takes a
yeah,
long time for Scorpio to initiate change. It's like a snake, right?
mhm,
The snake is a symbol of Scorpio, along with the scorpion and the eagle and the phoenix. And so the Scorpio archetype has four levels of consciousness that it can move through. Hopefully, it leaves behind the snake and eventually reaches the phoenix
yeah.
of transformation and rebirth. But to do that, you have to let go. So you have to
I hate letting
learn.
go. I hate letting go. That's like
Yeah.
my worst fear is letting go stuff. Like when I married my
Yeah.
husband, like, well, actually before I married my husband, like he was living in Mississippi and I was living in Alabama. And we first started dating. I was like, do I really want to move to Mississippi? Like, I really don't want to. Like, I was trying to convince him to live in Alabama with me. He was like, no, I already have a house. So you might want to come and live here in Mississippi. I had to be uncomfortable and move to Mississippi, you know? But I adjusted to it, you know, over time. At
Yeah.
first, I was like, I can't deal with this. But now I'm like, okay, Alabama is not far away from us anyway. We're literally at the borderline of state lines of Alabama, Mississippi. So I'm like, it's okay. I could just travel back to Alabama every now and then and still do the same stuff that I
Hmm.
have been doing,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, that
Yeah.
is the thing. I mean, my partner has 5 planets in Scorpio. He also has
Ooh.
Uranus right there next to his sun. So
Mm,
Uranus, this is where it all like gets really juicy and stuff. So Uranus requires change. It is
mm,
the chaos maker, change maker within the archetypes of the planets, okay?
mm,
And when you turn about 40 to 42, you have what's called a Uranus opposition. And that means is Uranus comes to the opposite point of where your Uranus is in your chart.
oh,
Okay?
okay.
Because Uranus takes 84 years to go through the zodiac. So the halfway
Mm,
point is about 42 years old.
wow.
And depending on where it sits in your chart, you could face a lot of changes.
Mm,
Or, like my partner, he has to be an individual. And in the past, every single time his birthday would come up, he had this impulse of needing to change and shake things up. That's Uranus. That's not Scorpio. That's his Uranus activating. Now he sees it. He doesn't blow everything up, and he's
Mm.
past the 42-year-old time frame. I tell people, like, if you're going to get married after 42, because that's after the midlife crisis BS that most people go through,
Oh,
and
what?
you are much
Wow.
more, yeah, because you're much more attuned with who you're gonna be. Like, the majority of human transformation happens between the middle of your 30s into about 55. I mean, when you meet people who are 84, they're not changing. They are who they are. But when you meet
Yeah.
people when they're 38, they're still changing. They're
Mm.
not done, right? And
Mm.
so I get the Scorpio thing of that fixed nature, rigidity of like, no, I'm not. But the thing with Scorpio is that you all are very perceptive. You catch everything. You can
Mm.
see things that most people don't see. You have an intuition that is extremely strong, and you are able to persevere things that most people can't. You have this a beautiful ability to both to die and reborn,
Mm.
and that's a gift. That's a real gift. Most people get stuck, and you're able to eventually release it. It's just you need to know that you do need to release at some point.
Kinda like if a Scorpio goes through a bad breakup, some people, they would get depressed for a long, long time, but like a Scorpio, it's like, yeah, we'll cry and stuff, but we rise again. I
Yep,
used to be like, wow, like I've been through some really tough times in my life. I'm still here. Like I'm still thriving. Like that is amazing to go through like tough stuff and like literally rise from it again, Like start
yep,
over.
yeah,
So yeah, you're right
yeah,
about that. So can you walk us through step by step, like what does a natal chart shows about a person?
yeah. So when people generate their charts, and if you're listening in, I recommend going to astro.com and then generating a chart that says in the houses.
Hmm.
And I'll have to apologize. The website is like was built in 1980. But when you go to pick out your houses, pick whole sign houses because that's how I teach people. And so whole
Okay.
sign houses basically says that each sign occupies one house. So the birth chart is the following: 12 signs,
Mm-hmm.
12 houses, and the aspects. Those are the lines running through the chart.
Are you talking about like
When
those
you're
red
beginning to
lines?
study,
It's like green lines and red lines, and I'll be like, what
yes.
what did that mean? Like I don't understand the aspects.
Yeah, yeah, I'll explain that. And so when you're learning your chart, the first thing that you want to get to know, ideally, you have a correct birth time. Why is birth
Yes.
time important? Because the rising sign changes every 2 hours. And the rising sign, if you do whole sign houses like I do, will determine the placement of all the houses. Rising sign typically sits in the first house. If your rising sign is Libra, then your second house is Scorpio, your third Sagittarius, and so on. So the houses and the signs will be one and one. So one
Mm.
house per sign. And then the lines that you see are all of what's called the aspects. These are calculated it's basically just math and geometry. So if you have a red line, you may have a opposition or a square. What are these things? These are connections between the planets, and I'm only focusing on the planets at this moment.
Mm-hmm.
Connections between the planets and how they talk with each other. How are they connected within you?
Mm.
So if you have an opposition between two planets, then that tells me, and meaning opposition is one planet is in one location, and then the other planet is in the opposite location, directly 180-degree separation between the two. That
Mm.
tells me that you are working to balance those two archetypes in your life. You flip between one and the other, or you don't have a consciousness about one of them, right?
Oh,
So
okay.
just because these lines exist doesn't mean that they're all active as they show for you in your life.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's why people will say to me like, Carolina, you say I'm an Aries, but I don't feel like an Aries. And then I look at their chart and I'll see that there's a lot of emphasis in a more hidden Aries, meaning it might be in the 12th house or in the
Mm.
4th house or in the 8th house. It may have a conjunction, meaning it may be right next the sun symbol, which is a circle with a dot in the middle.
Mhm.
It may be right next to Saturn if that's a conjunction, if they're very close in degrees. And Saturn is a limitation type of energy. It's restricting. Saturn has rings around it. It's those rings, just like our rings of marriage, right?
Yeah.
These are these are binding things, right?
Mhm.
They hold energy in. And so somebody who has a Sun Saturn conjunction may feel very serious to people, like they're very responsible individuals. They have
Mm.
this like feeling they have to like carry things through. Whereas if it was a conjunction with, say, Jupiter, the opposite energy of Saturn, then this person is jovial. They're like, woohoo, everything is a party.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, let's do some more of that. And they may even have a bigger body because whatever Jupiter touches, it expands. And that could be an
Ah.
expansion of the body, especially if it's the sun, right? The sun represents not just our core ego, but it can also represent our body.
Mhm.
So that's the lines. And then the natal chart will have 10 planets glyphs in it,
Mhm.
then all the 12 glyphs of the signs, and then it will also likely have other things like Chiron, which looks like a key.
Yeah.
And then the North Node, which is like a U and then an upside down U, and other things. Like there's so much you can put in there, but don't go beyond that. Like really, you don't need to. I
Yeah.
have I see a lot of the YouTube social media world people like Black Lilith and this and that. I'm like, if you don't understand your sun, moon, and rising,
Yeah.
then
Those are the
you're
big
losing
3.
out. They are the
Yeah.
big three. You need to understand that before you explore anything else in your chart.
Yeah.
Understand who you are. Understand what your emotions are. That's the moon. Like how do you do emotions? Do you
Mm.
do emotions? Because that's something to discover. And then the rising sign is calculated based on your, like I said, your birth time. That tells me how the world sees you and how you see the world. You can't
Mm.
escape the film that is over you. It's just, and think of it as like, go to concerts and you'll see the lights, all the different colored lights on the stage. How are those produced? Well, and back in the day, and they still possibly do this, they would have a colored sheet of plastic that they
Mm.
would throw over the light, and it would go from red to green or blue
Yeah.
or yellow. Okay. Well, just to think of that permanently, okay? You can't
Yeah.
get away from seeing your life through the rising sign. So I'm a Pisces rising, so I am very compassionate, very open with people. I have open arms. People see me when they meet me and they'll
Mm.
flock to me. They're like, this is a person that I can talk to. This is someone that I can be
Yeah.
open with. And it's scary. I didn't really understand that as a kid. And one of the things with Pisces is that it doesn't understand boundaries. And so
Mm.
energetic boundaries is something that is more conscious nowadays, more so than say physical boundaries. Like, no, I won't do that. No, you
Yeah.
can't come with me. Where I was just open. I'd be like, yeah, sure, whatever. Uh-huh. Yep. But when you're like that, you drain your own energy. Your
Mm.
energy is spilling out, and you need to recover that back to
Mm.
you. And it's very important. Pisces is also the last sign of the zodiac. So it's For some people, they consider it to be the culmination of all 12 signs, the
Mhm.
wisest sign, an old soul type of energy
Mm.
because they've seen it. And they're so open. They're like, "Yeah, I'll accept you. Sure, why not?" So, yeah, that's the breakdown of the natal chart. Those three core things, the signs, the houses, and then the
Mhm.
aspects. I try to teach my students first to focus on the elements and
Yeah.
the modality for them to learn the zodiac. Then we get into the planets. Then we'll
Mm.
explore the aspects. And then if they're curious and they want more, which they do, they'll want to explore the transits. And the transits, as I mentioned, is just planetary weather activating your chart. And that, planets move every day.
Yeah.
Today, when you and I originally scheduled this, I said Monday, July 7th is a very important day because Uranus, which is an outer planet, is moving into a new sign. And that doesn't happen often. That happens every 84 years.
Mm.
So I don't know about you, but I'm not 84. My mom's all getting there. She's not 84. So
Yeah.
anybody that's older than 84, say 100, like my grandmother, then she's seen this before. She's seen this transit before, but most people
Ah.
have not. It's a
Yeah.
new energy for us to explore. And these transits are here, I believe. I believe that the only reason why we're actually here on Earth is to learn how to be human.
Mm.
And the transits in the planetary weather to help us do that each
Yeah.
day.
Isn't Uranus like entering like Gemini too? Like, is that correct?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so
So
that
today
creates.
Uranus moved into Gemini.
So does that like involve technology? Like I know a lot of people are using AI
Yeah,
tools now and social media is like still around and like will that affect everybody's,
all of it. Yep.
yeah, that's
Yeah, yeah.
awesome.
It may not be like apparent at the individual level right away,
Mhm.
um, but we'll see it. So keep an eye on the news, and both the few days leading up to today and then after, we'll start seeing some activity. And
Mm.
so Uranus and Gemini will help us change and liberate and revolutionize essentially anything to do with Gemini. So Gemini is associated with communication, with
Yes.
learning, transportation, commerce, because it's ruled by Mercury, and Mercury is a commerce type of planet.
Mhm.
Yeah, I suspect that AI is going to get even bigger.
Yeah, yeah,
We're
that's what I
gonna
was
see
thinking.
we're gonna see major breakthroughs with it. We're probably gonna, by the end of 8 years, because this is 8-year transit, we'll
Mhm.
have new things that we haven't seen before. So Uranus and Taurus, which is what we just experienced,
Mhm.
that brought about a big conversation of where's home, because Taurus is ruled by Venus. And so Taurus is about the material realm and things that give us comforts, right? And so
Mm.
Taurus, what is the first thing that you want to have a roof over your head? And so during COVID, which was during Uranus and Taurus, what happened? We had digital nomads, had
Mm.
people leave their jobs because they reshaped their values, right? Like,
Mm.
why am I here every day when I could be in Hawaii or anywhere
Yeah.
in the world and work? So, digital nomad was created as a thing. We also had a lot, and we still do have a lot of raising of awareness around body sovereignty.
Mm.
What does it mean to be sovereign over our bodies? The other thing that happened during Uranus and Taurus was everybody wanted to start their own home garden
Oh, yeah. You
and
know what?
became their own.
I've been wanting to do some gardening, but it's kind of failing right
Do
now.
it.
But I don't know. I had a urgency to like make my plant box. Like I wanted to
Yeah.
do it. Like I wanted to try it for whatever reason. I didn't understand why I wanted to, but I just
uh,
had the urgency to do it. I don't know. Could it be that,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. With the people, society at large realized how important it is for us to have our own. food
Mm.
resources and not be dependent on others.
Yeah. So you mentioned the birth time. So like why is the birth time so important? Is it because like you said, looking for your rising sign is every 2 hours? Does any other
Yeah.
placements get affected with time or
Not really. Unless you were born right at the beginning of a change of a planet from one sign to the next.
Mhm.
That's what a lot of people will say the cusp babies. So people who are right at the end of, say, like Gemini season before Cancer season, right?
Yeah.
So the rising sign is calculated based on your birth time because that tells us what sign, what zodiac sign was visible at on the eastern horizon when you were born.
Mm.
And without that, you can't really know your houses. You can guess, and there are people, not myself, who are expert at rectifying birth charts without a birth time. But you can also use magic like pendulums. I don't know if you're familiar with pendulums, but you
Yeah.
can use a pendulum and ask, you can draw out a clock and just say, was I born between 8 a.m. and 10 a.m.? And do it
Mm.
in a 2 hour block because that's how often the rising sign changes. Because 2 times 12 is what? 24 hours.
24 hours, yeah.
So just do the 2 hour blocks of was I born at this time or this time, and then calculate, put it into Astro.com. Okay, I think I was born at 8, and then see what happens and see what you get. And say
Yeah.
you get Taurus rising, then read up on Taurus rising. Does that sound like you? If it
Mm.
does, then great. Then explore another one just so you understand, so you could see, like, because sometimes it's because we have planetary placements in those signs that
Mhm.
that rising sign may sound familiar.
Yeah.
So it could be or it could not be. You have to explore that.
Yeah.
And so the things that may change might be, say, like the moon sign, because the moon does change every 2.5 days. And so, for example, today, Uranus moved into Gemini. So if you were born just at the very end of Uranus in Taurus and you didn't have the exact time, you could have it either at the 29th degree of Taurus or at
Mhm.
0 degrees of Gemini. So
Mm.
that's why the birth time helps.
Yeah, 'cause I was born 12:45 a.m. So like let's say I was born like at 11 o'clock. Would it make a difference? Cause that would be
Yeah.
another day, right? Like the previous day.
11 a.m. or p.m.
Like at 11
a.m.
p.m.
Yeah, it would make a difference. You should look it up, but it would make a difference.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
I may
actually
look that
had
up.
my
Yeah.
birth time wrong. I had
Huh?
mine wrong when I first started all of this. When I first started looking at my chart when I was
Uh-huh.
studying, I had my birth time wrong. And so I thought I was an
Uh,
Aquarius rising. And I was like, oh, wow, that's cool.
yeah.
And then I realized I found out for sure and it was not correct. And I'm a Pisces rising. And that changed everything
Mm.
and made me, and it actually opened up my eyes to some things that I didn't, that made much more sense to me. Now,
Mm.
you may have readers, listeners out there and say, well, how about Vedic charts? Okay. So when you study astrology, you're going to learn that Western astrology and Vedic astrology are two different things.
Mhm.
Mayan astrology is different than Western astrology. There are many cosmology systems out there. What I teach is Western astrology based on traditional methods called Hellenistic, classical, traditional astrology,
Mm.
which has roots in the Egyptian Vedic world, but it's not the same. Vedic astrology follows a different way of calculating things, as well as it's looking at, I always forget, so this is, I should know this. Sidereal zodiac versus the tropical zodiac. So,
Mm.
two different ways of looking at it. Is one right and one wrong? No, they're both correct.
Yeah.
It's just how they're interpreted and how you identify with it. I've looked at my Vedic chart. I do not identify with it at all. In the Vedic world, I'm a Gemini sun. Nope, I
You
don't
don't
see
see
that at all.
yourself as
I
a
am
Gemini sun.
no. I have Gemini in my chart. I have Venus and Saturn and Gemini,
Yeah.
But no, at the core, I'm an emotional, moody MF, MF all the
Yeah.
time.
Wow. So that changes everything when you're looking at different types of
Yes.
charts, pretty much.
Yes.
And then the time
Yep.
makes a difference too.
Yeah, and if you're getting astrological readings from people and you're not sure of these things, they're going to ask you or tell you, "Hey, I do charts in blah blah blah." And so I tell people I do charts in whole sign houses. You may have your chart in a Placidus house. That's great. I don't read that. That's good for you, but I'm not interested in that. I know what
Mm.
Placidus is, but
Yeah.
that's not how I read astrology charts. And so yeah, it's good to know what you're reading and what you're trying to understand and keep it consistent. Don't go from one to the other, blah, you're just confusing yourself. Try to
Mm.
keep it consistent for yourself so that you're learning the basics quickly, if that's your desire, so that you can get into the more expert level things. My desire is for everybody to become their own astrologer, to
Yeah.
become their own guide, right? Like, sure, pay me to do your reading, but you're not going to want to pay me every single time. You really should try to strive to learn about yourself, right? Who doesn't want to know
Yeah.
about themselves? I do. I want
Mhm.
to know, like, what are my flaws? How can I be a better human? How can I better understand others?
Yeah.
Right? Knowing astrology can really help you navigate this world and realize, like, fuck, excuse me,
No,
there are
you're good.
other people out there who have charts that are completely different than mine. And
Mm.
based on that nature, they might be facing some really difficult things. That
Mm.
gives me ability to be compassionate and empathetic with them. I may not know what that looks like, but I can at least understand what that may be for them, an
Mm.
inkling. And I'm a curious person, so I want to know, I want to know, like, how is life for you like that? How does that work for you?
Mm.
So, yeah,
Wow. Thank you for explaining that. So the
you're
12
welcome.
houses, so like I get confused with the 12 houses. Sometimes I forget like
Sure.
which one of those means. So can you explain in simple terms like each of the houses?
Yeah. Yeah. So I skipped on that and I apologize when I went through the natal chart. So let me back up.
Mhm.
The planets tell you what is happening in your
Mm.
life. Okay? The what. And sometimes you could look at it, or if you want, always, as your inner soul coach team. Okay?
Mhm.
So each planet has a purpose of what, and how that planet is expressed is through the sign, the zodiac sign, and where that energy shows up is in the houses. That's why the
Ah,
houses are so important. So
yeah.
what, how, and where. So the first house, where generally the rising sign is located, although not always, because remember, we have people, astrology is not just time based, it's
Mm.
also location. People who live in the extreme parts of the north or south of the world have completely wonky charts
Yeah.
because of that. Okay. And so the first house is your self. It is your outlook on life, and it also represents the body, okay?
Mm.
But it's the self. The second house is values and resources and income, the things
Mm.
that you create, the things that you value.
Mm.
The third house is about your neighborhood, your brothers and sisters, your siblings, your communication style, your learning style. So, very similar to Mercury. Okay.
Mm.
The fourth house is your private self, your foundation, your core foundation, your
Mhm.
ancestry, your family, your home. And then the fifth house is your creative self expression. So that could be children. It could also be romance. It could also be art. You express yourself through art. So the
Mm.
creative expression of the soul. Then the sixth house is work and habits, as well as pets and health. So the seventh is then the opposite of the first. So if the first is all about you, the seventh is about your relationships, intimate relationships with others.
Wow, I love
And
the
that's
7th
how they
house. That's
work.
my favorite one. Yeah.
Most people want to know, like, okay, who am I going to marry? You look to the seventh.
Yeah,
as a place
I
for
was gonna say that.
information. Yep. And then the eighth house is when you merge with
Mm,
those people or the things that you share with others. And what's the opposite house of eighth? The second. The second is your stuff. The eighth is everybody else's stuff. So the eighth
mm,
is also death and taxes and sex.
mm.
It's where we go deeply to transform. You can see inheritance, for example, through the eighth house because that's somebody else's stuff, not
Yeah.
yours. And then the ninth house. The ninth house is all about expansion of the mind. So it's where if elementary school is seen in the third, then college is seen in the ninth. So the ninth house is foreign travels, foreigners. The 10th house is your public self. It is your legacy.
Oh,
And
wow.
so, yeah, it is what you're known as the person that most people will remember you by. The 10th house is what people would say from afar about you. Okay. Whereas
Mm.
the rising sign is when you and I meet closely together, I will see your rising. But from
Ah,
afar, in a community, you're known most likely as your 10th house or your midheaven, which sits, that's the
I was gonna
calculated
say the
point of,
10th house is a midheaven. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
But the
wow.
midheaven can also exist in the ninth or the 11th, depending
Mm,
on your chart. So the midheavens generally sits in the 10th. Then you go to the 11th. The opposite of the 11th is the fifth. So
mm,
fifth is your, you doing your thing, your gifts, blah, blah, blah. The 11th is the groups,
mm,
group activity, group affiliations, organizations. You could look at it as like if you were a business owner and you had a lot of planets in the 11th, then I would say make sure that you're networking and using social media,
mm.
right? A
Yeah.
group activity, group involvement. And so then after the 11th is the 12th, and the 12th is where you go to rest. Is the spirituality house. It's also a health house. It's where we go to dissolve. It's where we find our hidden enemies.
Mm.
Our hidden enemies, for example, I have my Mars in the 12th. So my hidden enemy is my anger. Okay. When I
Oh,
don't have
okay.
control of my anger because it's hidden,
Mhm.
I am my worst enemy.
Yeah. I never really thought
So the
about that.
12th,
Imma have to look into that.
yeah, yeah, 12th house, the 4, the 8th, and the 12th are houses that most people have a hard time discerning
Mm,
what they mean because they can be a little mysterious,
mm,
especially the 8th and the 12th. And yeah, the 12th house, when you're having when the sun transits all your houses during the year, right?
mhm.
Because it goes from one house to the next, from one sign to the other. Notice what happens when it hits the 12th house sign. Do you feel like you want to go inward more?
Yeah.
Do you feel like you have less energy? That's the 12th. The 12th is
Mm.
where we go to disintegrate so that we can be reborn and come back in to life through the first.
Yes, that's amazing. So which houses kinda work hand in hand in your daily life? Like, your everyday life? Because I know some of them. Not everybody experiences go to college or having children and
It all depends on the chart.
Mhm,
So some people may have a good amount of their, like my partner, he only has the second, the 12th, and the 11th. That's it.
mhm. Yeah,
There's nothing in any of the other. And so what does that mean when you have empty houses? Meaning there's no planets in them. That
yeah.
means that they're just not a focus
Mm,
for you. But in this lifetime, wherever the other houses have planets, that's a
mm.
focus for you. Now, are they a
Ah,
focus for you 24/7? No, that's why the transits and understanding yourself comes into play.
yeah.
So I have the second, the fourth, the fifth, the seventh, the eighth, the ninth, the 10th, and the 12th. So I'll have like
Literally
almost
everything.
almost everything, but
Yeah.
they're not all apparent,
Yeah.
depending, and it's all depending on the transits of the planetary
Oh, yeah.
movements, but also what's happening and getting activated for that year.
Mm,
So it's good to know all the houses because no matter what, you will have a house activated at some point in your life, if not multiple times, because the
Mm.
moon does that, within a month. And then the
Oh,
sun
yeah.
does that within a year. So if you're trying to understand what's happening for you now, track that. The moon is in my fourth now. I feel like I want to be more inward and being more connected with my emotions, or maybe I want to
Mhm.
do some emotional healing with
Mm.
connection with my family roots.
Yeah. I feel like the second house,
So
like, considering it's all about income, paying bills, and stuff like that, I feel like everybody experiences the second house at some point, like
yeah,
their daily lives. Whether you have an empty house
yeah,
there or what, like you're going to experience that. That's really
yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, most of us will, even if you don't work for yourself,
Hmm.
you'll have that turned on, activated at some point because you're going after something for yourself, right? Yeah, the second house is an interesting one. I'm actually teaching about the second house August 19th. There'll be a free workshop where I decode and help people understand that. It's a very important place because most
Hmm.
people don't understand that our values impact how we go after money.
Yeah. Like if you have a Taurus in the second house, you're going to be all about, I'm going to spend money to get what I want, or I'm going to make a lot more money if you're a Capricorn, right? Like if you're a Capricorn in the second house or something, like you're going to
Yeah, the
want
earth
to make money and become a millionaire or something, right? Because, yeah.
possibly. There was how Forbes releases their top whatever millionaires, billionaires of blah blah blah. Well,
Yeah.
that list came out recently, and somebody went through and analyzed it from an astrological perspective.
Mhm.
And they only looked at the sun sign, so they didn't look at the houses. But the number one hustler, billionaire, was Libra.
I'm
Why
surprised.
is that? Well, because Libra is very concerned with luxury. Venus. So
Mm,
Venus is a Venus ruled sign. Venus has to do with money and
yeah.
attraction. So
Yeah.
a Capricorn second house to me tells me that they are very concerned with making sure that it's all orderly and that they have a plan
Mm.
to go after the money. Wherever their Saturn is tells me more about the condition of that second house.
Oh,
Because
okay.
Saturn rules. If they have Jupiter in Capricorn, then yeah, they'll feel like they'll want to really bring in and work and hustle for that, but there will be a challenge because their Jupiter doesn't do well in Capricorn. Jupiter wants to
Ah,
be extra, and
yes.
Saturn is not about extra. Saturn wants to make sure that you're counting your pennies
Mm.
and doing all of your accounting and having everything in order, and you have a plan to execute. Whereas Jupiter's like, F the plan, let's just go.
Yeah.
So it all depends on the condition of the house for you to be able to tell how that's going to play out for you.
Mm.
Yeah.
So, we're gonna talk about the elements again. So you said there's four elements: the earth, fire, water, and air. When I think of the water signs, I think of like the sea, the waves. Like sometimes the waves are, calm or whatever, and then like the waves, like they get bigger and way way worse. And I kind of see it as like, okay, water signs, they are like the emotional zodiac signs because our emotions are like tidal waves. Like it could change, it could get bigger, it can get smaller. So, like, how
Mhm.
would you describe each of these elements?
Yeah, we'll start with the first one. So, the zodiac is organized with fire. That's the first one.
Mhm.
Earth, air,
Mhm.
water. So the fire signs are here to show us how to take creative action.
Mm.
They're out there pursuing something bigger than themselves.
Mm.
Whether that's Aries, Leo, or Sagittarius. Aries is that one, wants to go full head into their passion, and it'll be a fast passion. It'll be like, I have an idea, I'm gonna go do it. There's no reserving with them. In Leo, they're the performer. They're the ones that can hold attention with a crowd.
Mm.
And when I share these things, listener, just understand that I'm speaking from a very pure perspective. Okay. I don't know the full person's chart, but I know if there's a lot of Leo energy, that's the potential. Sagittarius natured individuals, they want to explore and reach for a bigger meaning in life. They're the explorer, whether that's running, traveling, or reading.
Mm,
Whatever it is, it's the expansion of the mind, of the soul for meaning, for the truth. And then the earth signs. The earth signs are more practical. They're the ones who are organized. They're the ones who want to think through things. They're living in the material realm. Okay?
yeah.
Material realm is very important to them. Not in materialism. No.
Mm,
Material realm meaning they have to touch it and feel it for it to make sense for them, which is very difficult when they deal with water people because the water people are living sometimes in a emotional la la land. So after the earth sign, which is Taurus, Virgo,
uh-huh.
and Capricorn. So Capricorn is known as like the CEO of the zodiac.
Yeah.
Virgo is the data analyst. They're the organizer. Taurus is out there making the food or planting, preparing the ground for planting. They're
Yeah.
very connected to the earth. Then you have the air signs, and the air signs live in the realm of the mind and the social realm, the
Mm,
social network. So they're if when you see somebody who's got a lot of air in their chart, they can be more detached. They have their friends being completely like breaking down, crying over like the smallest little thing, and they're like, "Huh, that's interesting." They're not wired that way, and
oh
that's
my gosh,
okay because
that's my son, my 1-year-old. He's Gemini, like almost everything. It's crazy. Woo,
yeah, they're
he's
not.
so
That's not their
attached.
realm, right? And so
Yeah.
they're here to teach us something else about ourselves. And
Yeah.
so the air signs are Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius.
Mhm.
And then the next jump is into the water realm. The water is emotion. It is empathy, also
Mm,
creativity. Not that there isn't creativity in the other signs, but they're a little bit more in tune with another language.
mm.
And so the water signs get along with the earth signs. They work together. They're complementary, whereas the fire and air are complementary.
So, like, if
So,
someone wants to date or whatever, should they consider just sticking with a certain modality or a certain element or whatever?
no, because there's a thing called synastry, which is when you overlay two charts together on top of each other.
Yeah.
And there's also a thing called composite charts, which is a creation of a third chart based on the two charts.
Mm.
And the composite will tell you more about the relationship. So if you're just judging people based on the very small thing that you know about them, you're not seeing the full picture.
Oh,
Now,
okay.
don't ask every single date for their charts. Like that's don't do that.
I'm guilty of that. I'm so guilty of that. I'm sorry.
You're not going to be able to really discern much. The composite chart tells you more.
Oh, okay.
So why should you not do that? Well, first of all, it behooves us to all know the 12 signs because they exist within you.
Okay. Yeah.
Just because there's no planet there does not mean that that's not an important sign for you. It's
Mm,
important for many reasons. There's other things that happen with a chart,
mm,
progressions, for example. That's when a planet moves to a new sign. It doesn't happen to all the planets. We only track really the sun and the moon for that, maybe Venus and Mars, but really just the sun and the moon. And that tells you a lot. So, as a Scorpio sun, you are at some point are a progressed sun in Sagittarius. And
mm.
perhaps you'll live to Capricorn. Okay. So that means that you are experiencing fire in your life.
Ah,
And
yeah.
you may attract people that reflect that back at you,
Mm.
whether that's through Aries, Sagittarius, or Leo.
Yeah. So, what advice do you have for beginners trying to read their chart? without getting overwhelmed. Because I know sometimes I get overwhelmed when I read my chart, like with the symbols and the lines, like the natal wheel. And then reading the reports, it's just
Mhm,
so much with it. I'm like, it's too much, you know?
mhm.
What advice would you give someone like
Yeah.
starting off with that?
Well, I would start with the very basics, as I mentioned before. I
Mhm.
would start with learning what the elements mean. If you don't know what your elemental balance is in your chart, then that's your first task. So what is that? What is the elemental balance? The elemental balance would be taking all of your planetary placements
Mhm.
and for each one, right? So your sun, your moon, all the way down to Pluto, write down what element it is in.
Mm.
Then tally it up.
Mm.
Do you have more in air or earth? Or do you have 25% in all four? Or are you 50-50 like me with like a speck of fire in earth? You
Yeah.
know, that tells me a lot. It will tell you a lot. When you're reading a chart, don't read the whole thing. Don't even bother. Learn your rising sign. Learn what the rising sign means in a chart.
Yeah.
If the rising sign is how people see you and how you see the world, do you understand that for yourself?
Yeah.
Do you understand the pluses and the minuses of your sun sign and your moon sign? If you don't, then that's your homework.
Mm.
Need to get familiar because every single sign has a shadow. Every sign, every planet has a shadow. So you need to go back to the beginning, learn the elements, learn what your modality balance is as well.
Mm.
Because if you're all fixed and don't have cardinal or mutable energy, that tells a story. That tells that you are a determined, stubborn individual who is here to make sure that something gets done in this world.
Yeah.
And I wish hiring managers could understand this because I worked for a very large high tech company before I just many moons ago, right before I had my awakening. I was working in high tech and the company hired for type A people. You cannot have a company that is 100% type A people and assume that you are going to survive.
Yeah.
We need all three types of individuals in the world. We need people who are starters, and we need people who are going to take whatever this person has started and then actually put it in place and
Mm.
finish it. No, people do not finish tasks that they begin. They just, I have little piles of beginning things everywhere. I need my fixed energy to complete them. The immutable signs are here to teach us how to change them. If you're in
Yeah.
a company that does not know how to evolve and change, you're screwed.
Yeah.
You need those people to help us identify what is wrong with things. That's what Virgo is really good at. Virgo can look at things and say, this is out of place, this is not efficient, this is how we change it. Why
Mm.
wouldn't you want that?
Yes.
Right? So all of these things are necessary in our world. So start them from the very beginning. And when you are done and you say, Carolina, I know my elemental balance. I know what my modality looks like. I am really comfortable with my sun, moon, rising. Then start exploring your Mars, your Venus, or the planet that rules your chart. The chart ruler is determined by whatever sign is in your rising sign. So if
Mm.
your rising sign is Scorpio, then your chart ruler is Mars. If that's the case, then you need to understand what Mars means. What is Mars in your life? What does the action, anger, drive, archetype do for you in life?
Mhm.
And if you realize, like, I have a problem with all of that, then you have work to do. You have
Yes.
healing to do.
Yeah, like
So every planet has a goal.
I've noticed under like I do my birth chart under cafeastrology.com. I don't know if you're familiar with that website. I was looking at the
Yep.
very bottom. It actually calculates the elements and modalities and the masculine and feminine. So
Mhm.
Mine is equal with cardinal, fixed, and water. They all have 4. And then I'm less mutable, which is why I don't like change at all. And then the only thing that's like way low is air. Air is like super low. It's like 1. I'm not an air sign at all. Like I only have like I guess the Gemini somewhere. Yeah, my Gemini is in 11th house. So
So that tells me that you do well with groups, like, you love to talk in group settings
oh
and
what?
social media, and your social group is talkative.
Hmm.
That's your group, and that's where you and yeah, and that Gemini in the 11th speaks to me that you will do well with the social media, and here you are, you have a podcast.
Okay,
That's
that makes
Gemini.
sense. Okay, that makes sense because I do love social media, like talking to people on social media. But like, I guess when it comes to like group settings, as in like school projects, I was always the one that was like the quiet one. And I just
Mhm,
sit and watch until someone says, "Hey, why don't you try doing this?" Or, like
mhm.
I'm like the shy one. So I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah, your sun is below the horizon. You have a night chart. Well, you
Okay.
told me that you were born at night, but I can just by knowing that, I know that your sun sits below the horizon. So if you take the
Yeah.
chart, you split it top and bottom.
Mm,
This is daytime people, people born during the daytime. Down
mm.
here is people born during the night. And so this is not as visible as this. Those are 2
Ah,
different if you had your son in the 10th, you would be very comfortable with public attention.
yeah. So that's like my hidden thing, right? Is yeah, I like to talk, but I'm too scared to do it. Like it takes me a little while to warm
Mhm.
up to do it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Mhm.
Yeah,
You're
that
more
makes
comfortable
sense.
behind the scenes than being in public eye.
Yeah. Wow. So, how can astrology help someone understand their strengths or challenges without feeling boxed in? Because I know, like, people, when they think of Scorpios, like, every time I go on a date, before I met my husband, and I would tell someone, "Oh, I'm a Scorpio." Ooh, you must be really good in bed. Like,
Mm,
because people assume that a Scorpio is the sexual sign,
mhm.
like they're freaky in the bed or whatever, or they're crazy, just like these stereotypes. So
Uh,
how can someone avoid
First claim your authentic self and know who you are and don't allow others to tell you who you are.
Yeah.
And next, understand that there's a lot of misunderstanding out there. You know, astrology has gotten a resurgence over the last several years,
Mhm.
but there was a period of time that it was really removed from the public eye. Most people don't know this, but astrology obviously it has its origins in the ancient world. But
Mhm.
astrology was used for everything. It was used to determine who was going to marry who, what
Yes.
lands were going to be purchased, when they were going to go to war. It was used by doctors. It was necessary for doctors to practice to learn astrology because you can do medical astrology. That's a specialty. And then after a while, religion came in, and that was the end of that, right? And so it got
Mm.
pushed into the occult, into the hidden world. And so there's
Yeah.
still a lot of taboo, and there's still a lot of misunderstanding, and that generic, boring sun sign interpretation. And so if you're out there and you're like, I'm a Scorpio, I'm a Cancer, whatever, because each sign has a bad rap of some sort. You know,
Yeah.
just get them on a different day, and then somebody else is going to be hating on them. Just
Yeah.
realize, and if you want to educate them, is that you're a complete person. And by the way, you have all 12 signs in your chart, in your body, in your personality, that you are here to express a specific signature, and the other person that you're meeting with has them too. They just don't
Yes.
know that. Learn a little bit more about yourself, like do self inquiry, like Scorpio sadly has that reputation. One of the things that most people don't know is, so if you're mapping the zodiac on the body,
Mhm.
Aries begins with the head and Pisces is the feet. The root
Oh,
chakra
so each
area.
each zodiac sign is a representation of a body part, is what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, and Scorpio is associated with the sexual organs. So
Ah,
that's where that comes from. And it's also
okay.
because Scorpio is so comfortable with going and merging with others on a very deep level.
Mhm.
And those that are very comfortable with their Scorpio nature can be very seductive.
Yeah.
Scorpio has a thing about their eyes. You can generally tell Scorpio people by their eyes, just like Gemini people. Look at your son's eyes. Do they glitter? Does
Yes,
he
they
have like,
do.
ooh. Yeah, Gemini has
Mhm.
this effort, like sparkly essence to them. Scorpio is much more reserved. They're hidden under the water, their emotions. But when they come out, they can be very seductive with their tail. They're a fascinating sign.
Yeah.
You're also the private investigator. You're the ones that want to be in forensics and want to like explore all the things. Like,
I love
yeah,
watching crime shows. Like, my husband be like, "Why do you always love crime shows?" It's just fascinating to me to understand
yeah,
psychology, to understand people's
yeah,
emotions during those times of whatever they're going through, and how people react when they actually do the crime, Like, I don't know what it is. It's just fascinating to me. It's not because I'm like a creep or whatever. It's the psychology of it. Just trying to understand the minds of individuals and their emotions.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what it
Yep.
is. It's just
It's the Scorpio nature that wants to understand truth. It
yes,
digs and digs and
the
digs, and
mystery
it's
of everything.
fascinated by it.
Yeah.
Yep, the mystery.
If you could recommend a book or a resource for beginners, what would it be?
Stephen Forrest, he is a one of the most well-known top astrologers in the US. He wrote a book called The Inner Sky,
Okay.
and that's a really good beginner book for people to begin with. And it's actually what I read myself and still
Mhm.
read. And it'll teach you all the basics. He writes it in a very simple manner.
Oh, okay.
And he does have a little bit of evolutionary astrology perspective lens. So from a soul reincarnation, but it's not
Mhm.
heavy. I love Stephen Forrest. His stuff is always wonderful. So
I
pick
have to
that
check him
up.
out.
And
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, he has a YouTube, he has a school. He's a very well-known and prolific and generous teacher.
Well, thank you for
So yeah,
recommending a book. That's something I would check out definitely. What's the biggest gift astrology has given you personally?
healing, a
I was
lot of
about to say,
healing.
yeah, self-acceptance for me. 'Cause, like, I used to think I
Yeah.
was weird, like, I'm different. I used to be
Hmm.
like, I don't understand myself, like, why does this person not like me, but then this person does, and why do I feel different from other people? Like, why is my personality like this? And when I started learning astrology, I was like, okay, this is why. I have Scorpio energy, I have Leo rising, and I have Capricorn moon. Like, this all makes sense now. So I
Hmm.
don't feel
Yep.
weird anymore. Like, I don't feel like some weird girl, with this
Hmm.
Scorpio energy.
Yeah, it is about self-acceptance and
Mhm.
discovery and mystery because it doesn't end. The learning for me doesn't end.
Yes.
There's so much more. Yes, self-acceptance and healing. Healing for me in many ways. I've used astrology intentionally, like I practice it. That means that I line things up with astrology time. Or I'll do certain activities to work with the energy in my chart. So I have Chiron. So Chiron is this thing that represents the wound within us that never seems to heal.
Mm.
And so wherever it sits in your chart, it's this place that is really an ouchie. And so for me, Chiron, I have Chiron in Aries. I just had generally when Chiron does its whole loop, it's about 50 years, although some people can experience the return earlier. And having that in my second house, I'm a Pisces rising, means that I have had a lot of situations where I did not value myself. And that included my earning capacity.
Mm.
and not going after what I was due. And so now I work at Aries house a lot. How do I do that? Well, I get in front of people like you and I talk about astrology that are Aries, courageous. I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
I am also teaching people about the second house because one of the things about Chiron is that we can see the wound very well in others and counsel others about those things. And it's by doing that that we help ourselves. And
Mm.
so I'm teaching a class on the second house, and I'm doing that for multiple reasons. One, everybody wants to know about the second house, as we talked about earlier.
Yes.
And two, I have Chiron there. And so by helping others, I'm helping myself. So that's
Ah,
astrology. When you learn the placements of your chart, you activate these things. You do the things that the planets ask you to do. So I've done a lot of energy healing. I've done a lot of affirmation work. I did a 2.5 year chant practice for Saturn where I chanted a specific Saturn mantra every single day 108 times with my mala. That was a dedicated practice just for Saturn. What does
yeah.
Saturn want? Saturn wants you to learn discipline. It wants you to have a plan and execute the plan. They say
Yeah.
that when you do Saturn work, that you're paid back later for it. And so I did that with that in mind. I wanted to Saturn at that point was transiting my 12th house, which is about spirituality. So I wanted to prepare myself by having a spiritual practice that could carry me on. And chanting or any mantra work or affirmations, if you're in this space and you're listening, I want you to know that words are spells. There's a reason why it's called spelling. These are spells, and when we use words, we are creating a new reality for ourselves. And if you're telling me that I'm only this, then dear one, you will only ever be that.
And that's a
Watch what you're
habit. It's a
saying.
bad habit of mine. Like sometimes I'll say negative stuff and I'm like, I need to stop doing that because it does manifest when you keep saying it.
Yeah, it'll show up somehow. And I'm not saying it's 100% always that way, but if you're always telling yourself, I'm stupid, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this, well, guess what? You will only do that because
Mm,
you're reinforcing a subconscious belief, and that will permeate across your body and across the relationships you have with yourself and others. So, yeah, chanting is a very important thing. It's a very Gemini thing, using words. How do we use words? And that's the practice that I teach others. How do you activate your chart through these practices?
mm.
You don't have to be all woo woo like myself, but it's the simple things. It's if you don't know how to have a habit, then you need to learn how to have habits.
Yes.
Many people don't have morning routines and they flounder. They're like, I don't know where I'm going with life. I'm like, you need to have a structure. And that's what Saturn teaches us.
Mm,
And it teaches us through your sign, through wherever it sits in your world, as well as with your interaction with other people. You'll notice people who are very strong with their Saturn nature are establishing systems, but they
yes.
could also be the big miser. They could be the ones that says no, no, no. Whereas Jupiter wants you to say yes. So you have to balance the two.
Yeah.
So that's astrology, and I love it. I love talking about this stuff. It's so much fun.
Yes. I'm really enjoying all of this. Where can our listeners find you if they like to learn more? I think you told me that there's a website that you have.
Yeah, if you're curious to learn more about me, you can do the following. So my website is questmystic.com. I
Mhm.
also have a free Facebook group where you could just jump in and see what we're about. And that is questmystic.com/Facebook. And I have a freebie. If you're just starting out with learning your chart and you want a workbook that assists you with some cheat sheets, then grab it. It's again questmystic.com/S as in Sam, D as in dog, freebie, free, BIE. And I'm sure Ashley here will share the links with you all. Just
Mhm.
go grab those. If you forget one of them, just go to my website and there'll be a freebie available there as well. And that's where
Awesome.
you can connect with me. And do sign
Yes.
up on my list because you'll be getting an invitation to learn about the second house. I'll be doing it on Tuesday, August 19th
Mm.
at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern. And it's free. So why not?
Awesome.
And if you sign up and you can't attend, you'll get the replays.
Good, good. So is there any last words of encouragement for people just starting off to explore astrology?
Yeah, I would say give yourself grace, give yourself some time, find yourself like myself or others that can help you bounce around ideas of what you're finding out about yourself. It's really helpful when you can talk to somebody about these discoveries. When you get to a point in astrology to start really really small. You think
Mm,
it's if that subject is too big, break it down even smaller. That's why I said start with the elements because it's the very very basic thing you could learn. And just know that time, Saturn is represents time. That time will reveal more of what your story is about.
mm.
You haven't fully discovered yourself. If you're still in your 30s, you're not there yet. You're
Oh,
really not
wow.
there yet. You're really not there yet until later. Yeah, more that comes. And that's the thing that astrology will teach you that nothing is permanent and things will
Mhm.
always evolve.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for being my guest on my podcast. I've learned a lot by being your host. So I really appreciate you taking your time, teach us about astrology and educating us. And I'll make sure to put the links down below for everybody to sign up for your freebie and all that. And if you want to come back and be the guest on the podcast, you're welcome to do that. You just let me know when you're ready. Because, like I said,
Thank
I've learned
you.
a lot just by talking to you. you know,
Thank you for hosting me. I really appreciate it. I hope that you all that listen in have learned something new in your life, and I am always here for support. Thank you so much.
All right, you guys. Well, this is it. So, if you want to learn more about Carolina, with her website and everything, like I said, the links will be in the description box. And I will see you guys next time.